I'll do what I know. Once the hearing on it, we don't fall. Just be. I don't care. What do you about it? There's gonna be a no. Who's that?
It was pretty uneventful. His walk, but he didn't say much. Didn't say anything. So now this is the only spot that the media can set up. Is that right?
Mike, can you go back?
Yeah.
Yes. So, okay. So let's explain.
I think I might just.
All right. So let's explain exactly what happens from this point forward now. JB Buno, Josh Benson here with you on the left and right side of your screens, respectively. So here's how this is going to work. What just happened was Bryan Kohberger was transported from the holding area into the courtroom where now the extradition hearing is going to begin in approximately 5 minutes time. Of course, he arriving about 5 minutes ahead of the 3:30 scheduled start time on the docket in Pennsylvania court. So you would imagine that it's going to start relatively on time. Of course, what will happen as we understand that the process looks like this. The judge will confirm that he is waiving his extradition. There will be a paperwork component. I'm not sure if the paperwork component is going to happen in the courtroom where he's going to write and finally, sign, in essence, his waiver to waive extradition, or if that is going to happen in a separate area. But this is where basically the judge is going to confirm that he is waiving his extradition out of the state of Pennsylvania where he was apprehended, and of course, waive his extradition to the state of Idaho. We will follow along now with the reporters that are inside the courtroom itself. I spoke with Pennsylvania court officials on the phone yesterday to get a little bit more as to what this was going to be like. And they said, look, it's not the biggest courtroom. It's not the biggest courthouse. So what it was going to look like was it's a first come, first served basis for reporters, members of the media, and members of the public to go in there and sit down. So I'm not entirely sure.
There's a lot of media there.
Yeah, I would imagine that there was a lot of interest as far as getting a spot.
But as for so no cameras in the courtroom whatsoever, no pool camera, no nothing. And you can only have it in the lobby. Is that what you understand?
Yes, the pool camera itself. So this is the pool camera feed.
Okay.
And the next time this feed is going to be relevant to us is when Kohberger is coming out.
Right.
And when Kohberger comes out, we will know, of course, the hearing is over. And I don't believe, if I remember correctly, I have the rules, basically the Pennsylvania Supreme Court rules in my inbox here. And I don't believe that live tweeting is permitted.
In the courtroom by journalists?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Really?
I'll read this here.
Do they have to give up their phones?
Let's see here.
Well,
the court prohibits the taking of photographs, video, or motion pictures of any judicial proceedings or in the hearing room or courtroom during the judicial proceedings. Here's the part that I find interesting. Additionally, the court prohibits the transmission of communications by telephone, radio, television, or advanced communication technology from the hearing room or the courtroom during the process of or in connection with any judicial proceedings, whether or not the court is actually in session. So the court prohibits transmission of communications from telephone or advanced.
And if you do it, you can get kicked out of court.
Right. So
contempt.
If they are enforcing Pennsylvania Supreme Court policy, there are no phones permitted inside of the courtroom. And
which makes journalists' job even harder. They got to wait
harder.
Like everybody else.
Yeah, because then you have to come. Who knows? I have been to courtrooms where they'll take your phone. They'll say, "Look,
oh sure,
yeah."
They don't mess. The judge doesn't
mess around. No, it's like this is the rules of this building. No phones past this point, and so it's kind of radio silence.
Oh, and Bryan Entin from NewsNation, he's obviously there. He says going in the courtroom now, cameras and live tweeting is not allowed,
right,
but we'll update here and on NewsNation when it ends. Hearing set to start at 3:30. So yeah, 2 minutes away from what should be the start of this. But yeah, no live tweeting. So we're all going to just have to wait.
Yep. And this is a good opportunity for us to talk with our audience.
Yep.
But this camera shot, everybody, this camera shot, I would get rid of this camera shot, but this camera shot is still relevant because when the hearing is over, again, Kohberger will be transported and escorted down the hallway back from the courtroom and into his holding area. And whether or not the paperwork component for his extradition will happen, whether it's in the courtroom itself, in the holding area, or back at at the correctional facility, that I'm a little bit fuzzy. I'm a little bit confused about, but there will be a process where he will have to sign to waive his own extradition. And then, of course, the question will be, Josh, it's going to be, when exactly will he be extradited?
Yeah.
And what will that process look like?
And that's a big deal because once he arrives in Idaho, then we start to get details in the case.
Yep.
In the form of the affidavit, in the form of just details of how police came to the conclusion that this was their person. And that he is the suspect and he's been charged now with 4 counts of first-degree murder.
So we will use our opportunity here as we wait for some action on this shot. Josh and I will answer some questions. Josh, you're on the 4 o'clock news. So you have how long with us?
No, I have.
All right. So just wanted to chime in here. Hi, everyone. I'm Empowering True Crime Alex here. And so we're covering the Idaho 4 case. As you know, there is a suspect in custody, arrested in Pennsylvania. Right now, this is the extradition hearing in Pennsylvania. And it is expected that Bryan Kohberger, who has been charged with 4 counts of murder and burglary, that he is going to waive his extradition, meaning that he will be going to, he's not going to fight to try to stay in Pennsylvania and have that whole process drag on longer. It's expected he's going to waive. We don't know how long this could take. It could be a few minutes or it could be a while longer if they're going to be signing any paperwork or anything like that. No cameras are allowed in the courtroom. All that's allowed is this pool shot, as it's called. And it basically just shows him going in and out of the courtroom to the holding area. And there were images earlier today of him entering the courtroom, and he was wearing this red suit, and he just looks, he looks scary. So we'll see. So right now it's just JB and Josh talking a little bit. And so they're just answering some questions from their live feed. So I'm not sure. I just took the opportunity. If you want to go, I'm going to put a link to this if you want to listen to what they're talking about. So also no live tweeting, no form of communication, no calls, no texting, no communication, no digital devices, nothing, no digital communication. So Bryan Entin, the reporter, is inside and he's not going to be tweeting or anything until after. So, all right, let's put the volume back on and see what they got to say.
Scenario.
I mean, it's just the opportunity for the judge to have Kohberger in front of him in his courtroom. Okay, here we go. Here's some. Oh, they're waving. Okay, so this might be it. Let's bring up audio. Let's listen in. You saw the camera photographer wave. That is usually the universal sign for actions about to happen, communicating back to us at various news stations across the country. The time now, I just want to make note of this, 3:32. So if this really if this is it, that was extremely brief. Pick up on some of the side chatter from inside the courthouse as well.
And also just a reminder, there has been, there's a gag order. They can't say anything. The evidence, the probable cause is sealed until they get to Idaho, which is part of this extradition process. Once he gets to Idaho and he's in Idaho and has been formally arrested in Idaho, then they can release the probable cause affidavit. Right now, we don't know the details of the probable cause because they have been sealed. So let's see what is happening.
Yeah, I actually, when they opened the door, I kind of like this long disappear.
Maybe not.
Thing. So I'm gonna
Seems like that might have been
False alarm.
false alarm. I was going to say
That would have been awfully
that would have
fast.
been a record. I mean, court
Unless he
hearings are
started
known to
early.
sometimes be extraordinarily short, but that might have been a record. So let's talk more about the Pennsylvania press conference.
Yeah.
The PA State Police press conference. that they announced, and I thought that this was interesting. They announced it for we have to be ready on the touch screen, folks, to hit a button to go full screen so that we can monitor Kohberger coming out of court. But Pennsylvania State Police, they released this. Colonel Robert Ivanchik, Commissioner of the Pennsylvania State Police, Major Christopher Paris, Area 3rd Commander of State Police, and Monroe County District Attorney David Christine Jr. will be holding a press conference today to discuss the apprehension of Bryan Christopher Kohberger. Kohberger was taken into custody early Friday by members of Troop N and the Special Emergency Response Team at a home in Chestnut Hill Township in Monroe County in connection to the homicides of 4 University of Idaho students on November 13th. The press conference will be available via live stream. A PA cast video will be available after the event. And then it, of course, goes into the what, when, where, and the media contact for the event.
I can't hear.
Oh,
what
wait,
he's saying.
yeah, this is interesting.
That's all he's doing.
So I was trying to answer my past. I said Ryan's for expedition here, so I should just say it's Ryan here. Oh, no, they're not. An expedition, okay, that can go numerous ways. Okay.
You got better hearing than I do.
Okay. He was walking.
Do I though?
Oh, I can't hear a thing.
I'm listening.
Switch to get older, JB.
A hearing not to have, yeah.
Some of the normally off-camera interactions that occur when we're talking about. What's that now?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if he knows
It's in the hearing right now.
that
Okay.
he's in the pool.
All right, cool.
Just
Excuse
confirming
me.
with our team here. Thank you, Jim.
He can really hear well. Jim can.
He must, and he's older than both of us.
Yeah.
So
what's his
he
secret?
has superb hearing. Shout out to Jim Hockett. He has Bryan Kohberger has according to this court officer waived extradition, and what he's doing now in the courtroom itself is signing the paperwork necessary for him to formally approve and legally approve of his own extradition. So yeah,
And I
this
guess
was
the
quick.
logical question now too is how long now before he is extradited back to Idaho? That's what everybody wants to know.
Yep. And the judge might be announcing that here shortly. That answer might also come at the Pennsylvania State Police press conference, although that would surprise me a little bit. I'm sure it's possible, but that's going to be one. If they take questions, one of the questions is going to be, when is Kohberger leaving the Pennsylvania jurisdiction? And it'll be interesting to see if we get an answer on that. But all of this unfolding over the next hour or so, folks. So if you're just joining us, JB here with you live on WFLA Now, Josh Benson, Bryan Kohberger, the Idaho murder suspect. He is currently in the courtroom waiving his extradition, signing the paperwork necessary. What will then happen after that is he will be escorted here by court personnel, by members of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, I believe. They're going to be escorting him down the hallway back to his holding area. He will be transported back to the Pennsylvania Correctional Facility, awaiting his official transport. And I believe, of course, then it will be up to Idaho to arrange for transportation to bring him back to the state.
You know, it's interesting storylines too, is just what we see on social media and what everybody talks about in terms of, all right, how was he apprehended? How did they tail the car? You know, they found the car at the parents' house. That's something that came out today. The dad had traveled back to Pennsylvania with Bryan in the vehicle. There's some speculation on if they both, I think there was 2 tickets that they got pulled over twice on the way back. Now we're seeing some speculation that may have not happened from police. So we don't know the true story there just yet. But also seeing things, you know, what kind of inmate was he in the jail? I saw some things on social media saying, hey, you know, he was going crazy and he was threatening people. The Monroe County Correctional Facility warden came forward, I know, to CNN and said that he's been a model prisoner who has not caused any problems during his time in detention. That's according to a source familiar with Kohberger's status at the facility. So this just kind of shows you that there's so much information out there and storylines that are happening so fast. And it's kind of tough to decipher like what really is happening in terms of, you know, what's true, what's false, and what do people want to believe. I think a lot of people out there think this is public enemy number 1 and want to believe.
Hold on, Josh.
I know they're not gonna move from that.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
Yeah, try to hold on to that. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Do you mind hanging out 1 second? I'm just gonna figure it out and make sure that nobody has.
So this is the core personnel preparing for this to be over with and for him to now come back down the hallway. So we'll stay on this now full screen with audio fully up, but we'll try to listen in with everybody else watching wherever you're watching from once Kohberger arrives down this hallway.
Yeah, this building's closing up at 5, right?
4:30.
Sorry, Josh, did you want to finish that?
No, I was just thinking, this Kohberger's attorney, he was on Today's Show this morning as well, and said in an interview, he was shocked a little bit when he was arrested. First of all, I'd be shocked a lot if I was ever arrested. But he was shocked a little bit. He said, and he believes he's going to be exonerated. This is what the attorney for Kohberger said in an interview today. So along with what the family is saying, they're shocked to hear these allegations. They say this couldn't be our son. These are things that are now coming out from the family and from Kohberger himself. So it's until he gets back to Idaho and until we see some more evidence of what happened in this scenario to get him to be this #1 suspect. There's going to be a lot of storylines on social media. We just got to be careful about what we report and what we follow as truth.
Yeah, sleuthy goosey. I'm paying attention to some comments here, but we're also trying to get ready for Kohberger's next appearance in the hallway. Says hashtags for both of us. The lawyer, LeVar, says he got tickets, but he hadn't seen them, didn't know what they were. Indiana State Police say they have no record of stopping at the Kohberger. This is based on reporting by Fox News that on the trip in mid-December, on the trip home, Kohberger and his father, according to LeVar, the attorney, that they got pulled over twice in Indiana, and Indiana State Police saying that there was no record of them getting pulled over. And that would mean, of course, that there weren't any tickets given.
Right.
But yeah, that was another nugget that came out from Fox News. As all these as interviews are done and questions are asked, this is how we get information between now and the arrest affidavit being released. Right.
I wonder if these people know that they're on.
We've got the
full
audio
camera.
up on full blast. We also have it full screen for you for, again, Bryan Kohberger exiting court.
Yeah, right on time.
They don't know. I don't know if they know that they're on camera.
Starting to walk. Walking.
Here we go.
Do you got bathrooms? It should be clear.
So that was pretty quick. That was a little over 10 minutes that he was in there. About 15 minutes, maybe. I have to go back and check exactly what time he went in. Now let's check with Bryan Entin and see what he had to say. So at 11:04, Bryan Entin said that Bryan Kohberger had just arrived at the Monroe County PA courthouse. So he's been in that holding room for about 4.5 hours. Wow.
Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger appears in Pennsylvania court, waiving his extradition, sending him back to the state where he is expected to answer to 4 first-degree murder charges in the deaths of 4 University of Idaho students. JB Buno, Josh Benson here with you live on WFLA Now across all platforms. So the extradition process is now in the rearview mirror, according to the court officer there, and we are now awaiting word as to when exactly the extradition is going to happen for the Washington State University student accused of 4 gruesome stabbing deaths at the University of Idaho on a inside of a college residence back on November the 13th. Josh, so we have seen Kohberger arrive, depart. This was all done within really a 15-minute time.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of confusion as to what just happened. So let's just go through what this hearing was all about. So extradition is a procedure where one jurisdiction will pretty much acknowledge with another jurisdiction that there's probable cause to bring someone back and arraign them there for prosecution. So that's what we're seeing here. One of the agencies bringing into this court hearing, Kohberger has decided to waive extradition, meaning he wants to get back there to Idaho as soon as possible to try to be exonerated from this crime. And that was set at 3:30. So it's what, 1/4 to 15 minutes. That's all it took. It was supposed to be a brief hearing. It was. Now, he may have gotten the opportunity to speak. Sometimes suspects in this case would be allowed that. We don't know if he was, because we're obviously not in the courtroom at this point. But the public defender, Jason Labar, says he's eager to get back to Idaho to be exonerated, and that's why he's not fighting extradition. So what happens in this case next, if he waives it, which he did, he's expected to be flown back to Moscow, Idaho, and could be there within 72 hours. So we don't know the exact time frame, but that could be the time frame that they're looking at. The Latah County prosecutors have said the
Okay, so let's look at what Bryan Entin just tweeted. Let's get the latest from him. Alrighty, he said, Bryan Kohberger waived his extradition hearing. He had to sign a waiver in court. The judge explained to Kohberger the charges against him in Idaho and that he was voluntarily allowing authorities to transfer him to Idaho. So Bryan said that was 1 of 3. Let's see. Okay, so that was the first part. We've got waived extradition, which we knew he was, or we expected he was going to do. And as I said, it wasn't allowed to have any communication in court. And so they weren't able to live tweet while they're in there. They weren't able to record or take photos or any recording or any communication while they were in court. So Bryan Entin was in there, and he's just updating us now. And I'll just take this moment while we wait for him to update his tweets to let you know that Empowering True Crime is a channel that we want to bring justice for victims. We are advocating, and we want to share survivor stories, help victims and survivors get justice, as well as their families. We want to educate people on statistics and news and maybe even misinformation so that we can provide the best possible information for everyone. And lastly, we want to eradicate these types of crimes like DV, SA, and other forms of abuse so that these crimes don't happen, so that we can live in a better, a more unified, a more loving and caring place. So if you like my style of true crime, or covering true crime, which is more empowering and of course empathetic and really with that victim-focused voice, then I appreciate if you like this video and if you subscribe to my channel. All right, let's see if Bryan Entin had any updates. Alrighty, so he's taking a little time to do the updates. Maybe that was it. Maybe he's not doing another update. All right, so I'll go ahead and stop sharing here. And I just wanted to make a couple of other points. So apart from the extradition hearing here today, I just wanted to make a couple of points, and you might have heard it. Josh actually alluded to this, and I'm a really strong proponent of making sure that we don't perpetuate misinformation. My background is in communications, media expert, so I'm really, really careful of what I say. I try not to put a lot of speculation because I don't want to contribute to misinformation, and in some cases disinformation that you see out there. People who are purposely or intentionally or unintentionally putting out wrong information. And that doesn't usually serve the victim. So I always want to make sure that whatever we're putting out there is helping to bring justice for the victims. And so yeah, a couple of things. There was I don't want to be the one who's going to do the scoop, right? Because a lot of times I see some of my colleagues putting out information first and it's wrong. Just a simple example. There were 3 names of potential suspects that were put out into the internets. And when I started seeing all these different names, I didn't feel comfortable sharing. This was before the press conference. I didn't feel comfortable sharing any of the names because I wasn't sure who was the actual suspect. And so there were other people that were putting out different ages, different names, and that led to some misinformation, disinformation. Probably people were doxxed. Some people were probably, put out there. And so, you know what? That is not, I want to keep it empowering, which means trying to stick to the facts. Of course, people can share their stories and maybe their perspective and their viewpoints, and all of that is definitely warranted, but always making sure that we are very clear what is fact and what is opinion or speculation, because we don't want to muddy those waters. And we want to make sure that we have the best possible information so that we can stick to the facts. All right, let me go back and just do a quick check to see if Bryan Entin has updated. Okay, so he posted number 2. 2 out of 3. Kohberger told the judge he is not on any medication that would impact him making the decision. The judge says he has to be sent to Idaho within 10 days. So that seems like a really long time, but I'm assuming that Idaho is responsible for getting him back to Idaho. So I'm sure Idaho is not going to wait 10 days. So it wouldn't surprise me if they try to get him out in the next couple of days. All right, and then the tweet 3 out of 3 says, Kohberger came into court and made eye contact with his family sitting in the front row. He nodded at them. His mom cried and his sister comforted the mom. A deputy brought her tissues. So that's it. I think the one that's the most kind of the thing I wasn't really expecting is that he'd be sent to Idaho within 10 days. But once again, it's not on Pennsylvania to do that. That's probably on Idaho to get him back. So I'm sure Idaho is going to try to get him back as quickly as possible. 4 innocent lives were taken due to allegedly Bryan Kohberger's actions. So yeah, so I would love to hear your thoughts. What do you think? One of the things we're trying to figure out is, okay, so he's waived his extradition. How quickly will he be in Idaho? And so maybe they're going to reveal that information in the press conference later. We're not sure yet. We'll wait for that. But I would love to hear your thoughts. What do you think? Do you feel like this media, misinformation has hurt the case, has helped the case? What are your thoughts? And let me know in the comments. And once again, if you like my style of covering true crime, then I'd appreciate if you like this video and if you subscribe to my channel. And with that, I will bid you adieu. Stay safe, stay thriving, and have an empowering week. Keep it empowering, everyone. Talk to you soon. Bye for now. And it doesn't appear like he has updated. So I don't know, maybe that was oh my gosh, you guys, this is funny. So look here. Look what this person said. Me refreshing 500 times. And then somebody said something like, me like a dumbass waiting for, here I am like a dumbass waiting for 2 to 3 and 3 out of 3 and not realizing it's a date. Oh, Bryan Entin. You trolled us. We're all here waiting for update number 2 and number 3. That is so funny. No, it's the dates. January 3rd. Oh, Bryan Entin. All right, well, there you go. I'll end that, and I hope that was a little light, a light moment in an otherwise very, very heavy topic. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button for notifications. Thank you.